right, greetings everyone. Just gonna try to get this lighting a little bit more beneficial because you cannot see me at all. All right, give me 1 second. All right, that's a little better. It's still a little off, but we're not gonna worry too much about that. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump in to today's topic, which is society. So I apologize about the lighting. I'm not a professional photographer or anything like that, so I just trust that the content and energy coming from this video reaches the right people, the ones who are meant to receive it. I will be posting this on my YouTube channel, Facebook, and also Instagram. So this is a free video from Cosmic Frequency, a member of the Republic of Eternal Nations, in which I am the trustee, also senior minister of the Temple of One, and your spiritual specialist and cosmic guide. And today I just wanted to share a little bit about society. I just did a wonderful interview on the Debbie Dashinger show, which was our podcast. Absolutely wonderful. Again, shout out to Debbie. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of something so transformational and so profound. I really appreciate it. And there were a couple questions she asked that I wanted to elaborate on. We just didn't have enough time. So I thought I'd make a few videos in regards to those topics. And one of those topics is society. So when it comes to society, one of the main things that we normally associate with society is it's something external. It's something external from us, right? And what I wrote here today, I'm going to read this off. Society is the construct of beliefs, thoughts, and values of a group of souls or beings. A society is generated and is the reflection of the souls who inhabit it. The souls are what make up the society. So that is so important. That is so key for everyone to comprehend. It's the souls who make up the society. It's not the other way around. A society does not operate outside of the soul's consciousness. So society is not something independent of a people. Society is literally constructed from the minds of the people. In other words, a society is not independent of the beings in it. And I speak a little bit here on how if we are to change and to shift anything in this realm, we have to stop playing in the past. This is something I talked about on the podcast with Debbie. The idea of changing things out here, right? Dealing with the government, dealing with all the things that we think aren't fair. What we have to begin to understand and to comprehend is that those things came forth from a set of frequencies, values, thoughts, and ideas. They did not exist randomly on their own. They were created by a consciousness. So all the things that we, don't like about this world, whether it is recent pandemics, it doesn't matter what it is, all of those things stemmed from a consciousness. They stem from a creative energy, right? Everything is pure potential until the observer starts to observe it. And based on what the observer or consciousness or source or God is feeling, thinking, or envisioning, it will then express that. So our society, as I wrote, is just a reflection of the state of mind that humans have been in. Now, a lot of you may say, well, no, because there's evil beings out there, there's, corrupt governments. All of those things are a byproduct of the consciousness of the human race. There's a reason why, let me just say this: something that doesn't have a soul, something that doesn't isn't quote real, needs to interface and extract energy from something that is real or its creator. We call this an egregor. So the people in the New Age community who are talking about beings who come here to abduct people and do crazy things, and they're kind of harvesting the loosh and all that. Well, why? How did we get to that point? Why would they need to harvest loosh? Well, they would need to harvest loosh because they don't have the energy or the means to generate their own frequency, their own energy. Why? Because they're not real. They're figments of imagination. They are creations, right? And so they can't sustain themselves. So they go back to the source, which is you, which is your consciousness, which is your thoughts, feelings, and desires, and your fears, and they feed on that. And so it's not like these things have existed outside of society and they just came from outer space. They were brought forth by the consciousness and by the state of mind of the inhabitants of this realm that we call Earth. So, how does that have anything to do with perception? Well, your perception, what you think is so society is based on your thoughts, your ideas, and your values, what you think is real. It's what you think is real. Okay. So if you think that driving a car is the most efficient way to travel, and that's real, and then hundreds and thousands and millions of people are thinking in that way, then that is going to be the base fundamental reality. So, with that said, we only are going to bring forth what we are in alignment with as a people. So, what's happened is the perception has been altered and it's been shifted, okay, through mind control. And I'm not just talking about MK Ultra or Spygate or anything like that. I'm talking about television, talking about propaganda. These are all ways that the human population has been mind controlled to generate a society or an experience that benefits the people who are doing the mind controlling. So how do we get out of this? How do we stop and change our society? Well, I'm telling you right now that society is not something independent of you, that you are society. Society does not exist on its own. If there's no people, there's no society, right? If there's not an observing consciousness, there's no society. So I apologize again about the lighting, guys. The sun's going down. I can't really figure it out. But again, I trust that the information and the knowledge being shared supersedes all that. With that said, there's no such thing as an external society doing something to people. The people create the society then reflects back to it what the people created. So the answer is very simple. If we want to do things differently, if we want a different society, we have to be different from within ourselves. Which is we have to start to comprehend how the realm actually works, how the ether actually works, how our thoughts influence things. I wrote a paper a while ago about the eternal substance, I call it. The ether, the eternal substance that we can interface with and that we ultimately are. Now, check if this is any better. And that might be a little bit better. So, whenever you have a thought, I'll break it down like this. Whenever you have a thought, I spoke about this in the last in the podcast with Debbie. Whenever you have a thought, that thought creates a gravitational field. It's a flux or flow of energy in the ether. Well, what's the ether? You can think of the ether as a huge body of water, right? It's the pure potential, unmaterialized, unmanifest source or energy. It's God, right? It's the thing that is sustaining everything. Now, what happens is whenever we comprehend or whenever we're having a thought or a feeling or an idea, it is creating waves or creating a rhythm or a pulse. I call it an ether pulse rhythm in the ether. And so what the ether does is it starts to accumulate itself and it starts to spin and vortex within itself. Within a vortex is within itself, utilizing the instructional patterns given from the consciousness, right? And those instructional patterns are going to be the frequency and the resonant tone of the consciousness. We call this a thought or idea. So over time, the more that we focus on something, the ether then starts to crystallize itself until that thing is called incarnate or manifest or materialize. All right. So with that said, this directly impacts society because you now have the power to shift your reality at will based on that simple principle. The ability to manipulate the ether at will through your thinking, through your feeling, through subtle energy work, which I do teach, and I would love to instruct those of you who are ready on. And so over time, instead of buying into the propaganda, buying into what anyone else is saying, start to envision, start to interact with your thoughts and feelings that you would like to see materialize. Better yet, become them. Allow yourself to become them. Right? Hope I'll be able to catch the replay when I got kind of late watching. Hey, awesome, brother. Good to see you here. So, this is something that I know not a lot of people teach is how to actually interface and manipulate the ether and create something from 0 point. There's a lot of stuff about manifesting and affirmations, but you cannot affirm something without being it first. You must first be the thing that you want to affirm. That's what an affirmation is. It's affirming what is, right? So I'm not interested in teaching people how to wishful think. I'm interested in guiding people in the proper mechanics of materialization. And this is how we develop a society. We first have to comprehend our own power of thought, our own power of feeling, and start to utilize those principles regularly on an everyday basis. Now let's scoot back. We wrote here, society is the construct of beliefs, thoughts, and values of a group of souls or beings. So if that is the truth, that is what makes up a society, then the best thing you can do to help the world right now is start to hold your thoughts and your feelings in a frequency that is more harmonious, and then take the actions to reflect that in your everyday life. You're not where like people want to get into free energy and 0 point energy. We need to master the basics as a people first. We need to master the very basics first and foremost, which is controlling our own frequency, which is the ability to manipulate our life in a positive way that brings about the changes that we want to see. You got to have a level of dexterity and patience, because if you really aren't used to working your consciousness in this way, if you're just still kind of doing mantras and manifestation techniques, the results might seem slow because you're still creating a medium, a interface system between you and that which you are looking to create. But when you go straight to the source and recognize yourself as the source, things happen much, much faster. You start to see things materialize almost instantly because you're no longer creating that buffer time period. Again, guys, I apologize for the lighting. Again, trusting that the energy and the information being shared here is more valuable than how the lighting looks. I did try to set it up. It was good a couple minutes ago, but it's changed just because of how the sun is and the lighting in the room, or the lack thereof. So when we start to Like if we're trying to reach out to the stars, which is good, like I'm not downplaying that whatsoever, but I'm saying there is a level of maturity that must take place, a spiritual maturity that must take place in the hearts and the minds of the people first and foremost before any of the advanced stuff can arrive. Because again, society is organized by the thoughts, beliefs, and values of a group or soul or souls. So that means that there's a group of us on planet Earth, and all we're trying to do is reach out to the, gather free energy and everything. But yet we have not truly learned how to construct our auric field. We haven't learned how to manipulate matter at will. We haven't learned how to manipulate the ether. It's infantile. It's a waste of time because you're trying to skip a step. The advancement of a society comes as a byproduct of taking that initial step of being a true creator. That's the key. That's the magic. You have to first be the thing that you would like to experience and know what you're doing. It's like this. You want to be, you're 12 years old and you want to drive a car for the first time, right? You see the cars, you're looking up the cars, you're saying mantras about how to, envision yourself driving a car. All these things are wonderful. All these things are great, and it's beneficial only to a certain degree. But at the age of 12, if you've never driven a car, if you go to get into that car, the second that key turns and acceleration is pushed, you're probably going to have an accident. You're not going to, be a very good driver because you didn't have the proper training. You didn't actually embody the principles, the mechanics, or what was required to actually drive the car. You just thought the car was cool. You loved the sound of driving a car. You loved the feeling it might give you to drive the car. But you skipped over the step where you become the car driver with confidence. That's what I'm saying. You see how that's parallel to what I'm talking about with society? We don't want this to happen. We don't want, uh, things in our arm to happen, things like that, right? We don't want vaccines and all this stuff, okay? But yet, we don't want to do what's required to actually change the frequency harmonics to shift our society in a different direction. I am telling you today, this is how you do it. You don't do it by complaining about what's happening, because as you're complaining about what's happening and as you're pointing it out, which is good to an extent, you're still creating it because you're interfacing with the past. Everything that's already in the physical world is past. It is birthed from a consciousness already. It's crystallized. So by you engaging with it and trying to fix it and point it out and do all these things, through the law of mirrors, through the law of resonance, you're saying, I'm still in resonance with this thing. What I'm proposing here is become resonant with the other things that you would like to experience as a people, as a society. When you become resonant with that, that is how society moves forward. It doesn't move forward whenever we get rid of the cabal, whenever we get rid of this. They are there as byproducts of a people who have skipped over the step of true creation, who forgot that they're God, that they are the ether, that they are the source. We have always had the power to generate whatever we wanted to generate. We only experience things through perceptional ideas and what we think is real. So if we think it's real, that there's some evil, scary reptilians running around, then we're going to create that, right? And by the way, not all reptilians are bad. The Alpha Dracos are amazing beings. They're actually the beings that, where we get the dragons from, right? So that's a whole other level. But I really felt called to share this with y'all today because I'm working on some very powerful things to embody what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to release it yet because it's not finished and it's not time, but it's in the works. But I have to lay this foundation because we can skip over all the other stuff. Because honestly, I feel like this is what's been missing from the spiritual community, the UFO community, the conspiracy community, all the free thinkers. We have not learned how to actually create. We've read all these ancient texts. We've looked at all these wonderful YouTube channels, including this one and others. We've read all these different conspiracies. We figured out that the government is this and that, but that only goes so far because you sooner or later you got to drop all that, pick yourself up, and realize that you're the creator, and that as a people we are the creator, and we've created this whole entire mess. This mess that we see on planet Earth is a byproduct of the unconscious fears, unconscious doubts, unconscious concerns and worries that a collective group of people have had for eons. Now, other beings have come in to, what's the word, to take advantage of those unconscious fears and all that. That's true. But again, in higher states of consciousness, you're not creating nightmares for yourself. You're not creating dissonance and disharmony. You guys see what I'm saying? Do you see how, as a people, we have to start at the basics? You cannot assume that you're going to create free energy from a place of lack, from a place of duality, from a place of, you know, ignorance, really. Free energy is a great concept. It's a great idea. But are humans really ready for it? Most of us are still looking to outsource our spiritual intelligence to to other people, to other beings. Now there's a difference between, actually, let me rephrase that. I see a lot of people still glorifying their own intelligence, putting people on a pedestal. I don't ever want to be put on a pedestal. I'm only here as a reference and as a point of contact and guidance. That's it. But I'm not here to be the end all be all, right? If y'all don't listen to me, then that's fine. That's your right not to do that. What I'm saying is, there's people with big names in this um, community that are still part of the game, that are only there to make sure that you're not really actually utilizing your creative energy. They're giving you ancient facts that happened here and there, and it's like, okay, that stuff sounds really great, but what is it actually doing right now? This is why I say cosmic frequency is here to offer transformation, not just information. I don't want to just inform you. There's a lot of people out there informing you. I want to help you transform. That's not to say I don't have some really powerful information, because I do, and I will share it. But I want human beings to realize their ability to be God, to be source, as they are, to take full responsibility and accountability. All right. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to do two things. One, actually, three things. One, where I'm going to read what it means to be a society again. Two, I'm going to show you a diagram about shifting dimensions and how that works. And then three, I'm going to actually turn on this light. So I'll turn on the light first, see if that helps out with the light. Be right back. Oops. Okay, let's see if this works. See this. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. All right. So just to reiterate and just to refresh a little bit, let's talk about what it means. What is a society? Let's bring it back. Okay, we're gonna go for a couple more minutes. Society is the construct of beliefs, thoughts, and values of a group of souls or beings. A society is generated and is the reflection of the souls who inhabit it. The souls are what make up society. A society does not operate outside of the soul's consciousness. It's not something independent. In other words, a society is not independent of the beings in it. So we talked about perception. Oh, I wanted to share this with you guys. So just utilizing what I just read, um, there was a science experiment done um, years ago, and it was back in the 1990s. There was an elderly group of people who were taking, so they were elderly, they weren't doing very well. A lot of them had kind of degenerative diseases that were kind of reoccurring, and they weren't in really good shape. So all these people were, I believe, after the age of 70. So they were, in human terms, old. So this group of elderly were taken to this town. And in this town, everything from the cars, from the lighting, from the table designs, from the house designs was set up to reflect the 1950s. Okay. So this whole town was set up to look like the 1950s. Remember, this was the 1990s, I believe, where they were doing this little experiment with this elderly people. So after the first week, a lot of the elderly people reported that their bones and their muscles were feeling better, that they weren't as sore. A couple more weeks went by. Some tests were done, and it was found that the elements that they had were starting to go away. And by about 3 to 6 weeks, that they actually looked years younger. All of their DNA reflected back that there was no sickness, that they were no longer ill, all the diseases were gone. So how is this possible? How is it possible that you go from being elderly, old, then to young, and the only shift was scenery? What does this tell you? Well, this tells us a few things. One, it tells us that DNA is not stationary. Two, it tells us that genes are not stationary, that they're dynamic. It also shows us the power of perception, the ability to perceive something as real, and the body taking in that information and actually reflecting it outwardly. This is what I mean by society is made up by the people. DNA is not fixed. There's no such thing as aging. Aging is a byproduct of thoughts and ideas and beliefs, right? So, and especially when it comes to DNA, most of us are taught that DNA is stagnant or genes are stagnant. Well, my mother had this kind of thing, and her mother had that kind of thing, and her mother had that kind of thing. My father had this, and we're placed in this very limited box. And what I want to tell you guys again, I speak on this a lot, is that you are not limited. You're only limited by what you think you are limited to. This is the power of perception. The power to perceive something gives you the reality. Shift your perception, you shift your reality. That means this body is malleable, that it's not solid, that the genes that make up this body they're not fixed. I can change them by changing my perception, by changing how I think about myself. This is huge. This is everything. And I don't hear many people talking about this, and it's probably one of the biggest things. The power that we have to alter our DNA at will, because DNA is not material. It is not a material thing. DNA is simply living memory. What happens is, as you experience something, that becomes part of your codex, that becomes part of your etheric ether pulse rhythm as a soul. You become the standing wave in the ether with a set of experiences that make up you as a soul, or as a spark, or as a part of, or you get the point. You become a perceived individual as a soul, on a soul level, with a set of experiences that you call DNA, but they're not physical. So as you incarnate, you come in with that set of experiences that are then outpictured in your DNA. Where you've been in the cosmos, you have been all over the quadrant, all over the galaxy. And so those of you who say like, oh, they have reptilian DNA, oh, they have Arcturian DNA, we all have all of it, because we're source, we're God. You know what I mean? It's not that simple as Okay, you've had 3 incarnations, and that's it. You only have pure human DNA or pure whatever DNA. No, because DNA isn't a physical thing. It's a byproduct of the experiences that a being or a soul has had. So whenever you remember your simultaneous parallel lives, you unlock your DNA. Because why? You've unlocked the codex or the memory bank of those experiences. So now you have access to that technology, that information, and that knowledge that is then outpictured in your DNA and in your life. Stuff is powerful. Okay? So, um, going on 30 minutes. So, the next thing I want to talk about is moving in between dimensions and density. So I was going to do a separate video on this topic, but I think it's relevant now. Um, so the New Age community speaks a lot about the 5D. Oh, we're moving up into to 5D. We're ascending into 5D. A lot of the Christic stuff says 12D, 48 dimensions, densities, and all this stuff, but I drew a picture here. I'm laughing, kind of like looking over here because it's like, do I want to share this? It's kind of, I'm not an artist, but let me see if this will. Let's see if we can get this to work. Actually, this goes pretty well. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play school teacher here for a little bit. This is not how densities work. This is not how densities work. It's not a ladder. It's not a linear movement from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, right? This is what humans do to compartmentalize consciousness, to compartmentalize the ether, okay? We like to break things up in little tiny bite-sized pieces and say, okay, we exist in this dimension or this density, and then we ascend into this density. Plant life is only found in this density. The truth is, it's more like this, okay? There's no separation. Now, how does this shift things? Well, this means that you have access to all the dimensions and all the densities all at once at any given time, based on your frequency, based on what you are thinking about, based on what you're doing with your body, based on who you think you are, what you think you are, right? If you think you're a simple Earth human and that's it, and blah blah blah, then you're going to create that experience that we talked about again, earlier. But you at all times, as a soul, as if you're a real soul, you have access to unlimited amounts. So we can just take this off. You have access to unlimited amounts of consciousness and spaces in the universe. There's no limit to you. Okay? So it's more like this. You experience reality more like this over here. So let's just say this is the all. I know it looks kind of silly, but let's just say this is the all. This is pure potential energy. Okay. Some of you vibrate and resonate like this. Some of you vibrate and resonate like that line, that line, that line, that line. Everyone is resonating in different ways. Okay, based on what we think is interesting, a whole conglomeration of things. So where is density 1? Where's dimension 1? Where's dimension 4? Where's dimension 24? There is none. Those are just numbers we make up to give us a linear experience. Because at any given time, you can pop from 1D all the way up to 24D within a matter of minutes, right? But the difference is most humans are kept in a perceived lower density because of what they're perceiving, because of the information that they're given, because of the things that they engage with on a regular basis. Most humans are recreating a quote lower density. But I'm telling you right now, it really isn't that difficult to shift your consciousness from 3D to 199th D, because it's all just ideas and thoughts and what you think is possible, what you think is real, and what you think you're able to do. And, you know, your body, your body is just a reflection of this current state of consciousness that you find yourself in, or that you are interfacing with. That's all it is. But you have a body for each station of identity, but you're not limited to any of them. You're free. You've always been free. There's no cage on you. Like, we're here. There's no cage. Only cage is in your mind. It's in your mind. It's how you perceive your world. Okay. Start to perceive things differently. Use your imagination more. Right. Go within more. Sit in meditation and actually play with your consciousness. Let your mind wander and create. When you do that, you're entering into different densities. Okay. Now, dimensions. Fifth dimension. We're going to the fifth dimension. Like, all of us we exist in all the dimensions all the time, anyways. So you might as well learn how to move between them. Okay. Now, dimensions are specific frequencies within a perceived density. You can think of a density as the container, and the dimension is like the degree within that density that you're experiencing. Okay. Now, these are all states of mind. These are all thought patterns in the ether. Okay. Different gravitational fields within the ether. There's no barriers. Just like, if I look at the state of Connecticut and then the state of New York, or is that a bordering state? Somewhere close. Doesn't really matter. Point is, or let's say New Hampshire, Connecticut, New Hampshire, no one on this planet, in this world, in this galaxy, in this whatever, can draw a line and that says, okay, this is where New Hampshire starts, and that's where Connecticut ends. That doesn't exist. Well, the same thing is true with densities and dimensions. It's a conglomeration of an ether field, right? That's all it is. It's an ether field. We are the field. We are the ether. So by our perceptions and our ideas and what we value, what we think is real, it determines on what we can experience. Now, reality will shift to match that. Meaning, as people transcend their lower nature, their limited thoughts and their old values, and they really free their minds, which is what I'm here to help you do, society will then, what is society again? Constructed by the souls who inhabit it, the thoughts and ideas, right? So as people start to transcend their own self, their own lower nature, technology follows. And this is where we're going to close up shop for the day. Technology is a byproduct of the people of the people. So a lot of people will say like, sorry, I thought I smelled something burning here. Interesting. They'll say technology is there's hidden technology on the planet, and they're hiding the free energy from us. You can't hide free energy. You cannot hide free energy. Free energy is your thoughts are free energy. Free energy is around us all the time. We are free energy. You're talking about the application in real time in a material way. Now that happens as a byproduct of the shift in consciousness of the people of the earth. We will naturally start to outpicture and express different technologies based on our state of consciousness. Okay? Our states of consciousness determine how advanced we are. Now, when we get into our star friends, they're people that look like you and me. A lot of them are. What makes them extraterrestrial is their mindset, is how they think and perceive. That's what makes them extraterrestrial. So I am an extraterrestrial. I'm an extra perceptional because I have expanded my awareness above the traditional mainframe matrix system. I've allowed higher states of consciousness to be my normal functioning. So therefore, I could be considered as extraterrestrial. But it's really not a thing. It's not that crazy. It's just a different level of awareness. a lot of people would be considered matrix because they're still operating in the traditional societorial standards that are imprinted upon them by their mothers, fathers, society, friends, churches, religions, right? But most of us have a great opportunity to shift and transition into a higher state of consciousness at will. There's nothing holding you back. And let it be heard here loud and clear. There's nothing holding you back. You need a little bit of tenacity, a little bit of focus and willpower, and your life could be drastically different within a couple weeks. Because you are the source. And as you focus and have a thought, you begin to create a vortex in the ether that then materializes and brings into being what you are in resonance with. But you got to let go of the old stories of the Anunnaki, of the the reptilians doing this. Be aware, but let's start to become the creators that we truly are. Let's really begin to maximize our ability to call forth our true essence here and now. This is how we shift society. This is how society is shifted. It's shifted by the thoughts, the ideas of the people in it. So what do we think is possible? What is the most altruistic, positive experience that we can imagine, that we can conjure up? That can be a reality. And the second enough of us are on that same page, well, then we start to do business together. That's why I set up PMAs and do temples and things like that. We start to set up different structures. And then society is then built over time from this consciousness. It's built from this consciousness. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's how it goes. And then surely but slowly, we uncover and rediscover the ways in which free energy works, toroidal math works, right? 3, 6, 9, 12 is the ether side. 1, 2, 5, 8 is the physical side. Okay, so that's why Tesla used 3, 6, 9, and 12, because that was the ether or the spirit side. 1, 2, 5, 8, 13 is the ether side, is the physical side. Okay, so our math equations have to change, but they can't change until we match the consciousness of that change, right? We have to be that change, and we can do it. It might take some time, or it might not. It really depends on you. It really, really depends on you. So I think I'm going to call it a day here. This has been Krys with Cosmic Frequency. I appreciate you all for showing up. I'm not even really sure who's here, but thank you, whoever did show up. I'll be posting this on this channel, of course, but also on my Instagram. Again, you guys can check out republicofeternalnations.org. And there's a whole bunch of new things on there that I'm going to be offering and sharing with you. And I'll be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo in February. Tickets will be on sale, I believe, in November. That'll be in LA. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, it's time for some new information to come out, for some new transformational wisdom to arrive. And that's why I set up Cosmic Frequency, because I'm really kind of tired of hearing the same things, the ancestors, humanity's a slave race. No, there's so much more to this wonderful species called human being than most are told. And a lot of things that in the New Age community are designed to keep you in that lower state of control and spiritual outsourcing. They're not meant to free you. They're meant to give you really cool facts, really cool information. But at the end of the day, it's not really transforming you. It's keeping you in a state of comparison to what he said, she said. And then you find yourself in a box again, right? So not to say there's not validity to some of the things that other people are sharing, because there is. You should listen to all the things and pick and choose what resonates with you the most. But my intention of that last comment was to direct you to the illusions of it, the continued illusions of just kind of looking for information versus looking to be transformed from the information you receive. So love you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. republicofeternalnations.org, Cosmic Frequency on Instagram. This is Krys. Peace.